This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Back in the House, the Houston government flexes its supermajority muscle with sweeping changes. Budget day, the PC's fiscal plan reduces the HST and scraps Halifax bridge tolls. And must-see matchup. Canada will face off against the U.S. in the finals of the Four Nations Cup.
Flurries on tap Tuesday night into Wednesday. Those clear, the winds finally easing. Your full forecast is coming up.
It was the first day of a new session of the Nova Scotia legislature, and also the first day for the Progressive Conservatives to flex with new supermajority powers, and they did just that. As the CBC's Taryn Grant reports, the Houston government introduced a suite of changes that will extend their power.
Nova Scotia's Auditor General, the watchdog of government spending. A Tory bill introduced Tuesday will allow for anyone in the role to be fired without cause with a 2/3 vote in the House. Since winning a supermajority in last fall's election, the Tory government has the numbers to do that. The bill will also allow the Justice Minister to redact parts of reports.
The government holds a significant amount of information, and there is always the possibility that there is confidential or privileged or private information.
Drouin could not give any examples of when the Auditor General has done this. The bill also introduces the power for Cabinet to decide to keep entire reports from the Auditor General private. Opposition leaders call the changes chilling.
This is a government that does not like to be criticized. Everything we've seen today is an effort to limit criticism of this government and their agenda.
They play such a critical role in the independence of and the oversight of what government decisions they make on a daily basis, so it's really sad that they've gone this far.
Premier Tim Houston refused to speak to reporters at Province House about these changes. The Office of Auditor General Kim Adair told CBC News she was not consulted, and she's asked to meet with government officials. These changes were among several proposed at Province House Tuesday to extend government power. The province appears to be trying to limit opposition debate, and opposition members could get less time to speak about bills that are moving through the House. And finally, the province's Law Amendments Committee is up for changes. It's a unique committee, the only one of its kind in Canada, where members of the public can come into the legislature to weigh in on bills before members vote. It appears the Tories will be changing the committee so that it does not have the power to consider amendments to bills. Taryn Grant, CBC News at Province House.
Meanwhile, Nova Scotia Finance Minister John Lohr has tabled the province's budget for the 2025-26 fiscal year, which includes tax cuts and measures to protect against possible tariffs. Total spending is forecasted to be $17.6 billion, with a projected deficit of around $697 million. The province is spending $2.3 billion in capital projects to help stimulate the economy. There will also be a $200 million reserve fund to assist if the provincial revenues fall due to potential tariffs. There will also be a 1% cut in the harmonized sales tax by April 1st. Health spending will rise by 8% to almost $6 billion, and the province will remove hospital parking fees.
Even though we may not be able to control outside influences, we can control how we respond, where we invest, and what we focus on next. Budget 25-26 recognizes the reality of economic uncertainty and the need to plan to meet the challenges head on. The reductions in taxes and capital and the increased capital plan help to stimulate the economy in the face of these headwinds.
The PCs are also making good on a campaign promise. Tolls will be lifted off Halifax Harbour bridges on April 1st. The move works out to $39 million in lost revenues. The province will take over the Bridge Commission and make it a provincial crown corporation. In its pursuit of greater resource development, the province has introduced legislation to lift the ban on fracking. Fracking, a technique for extracting natural gas from shale, has been banned since 2014. The province estimates there are 7 trillion cubic feet of natural gas that could be extracted in this way. Another long-standing ban in Nova Scotia is on uranium. According to the new bill, industry will still not be allowed to explore or mine for the element, but provincial staff will be allowed to research uranium deposits to inform whether the ban should be lifted. There's been a moratorium on uranium since the 1980s. The government also introduced legislation to repeal the province's fixed election date. The proposed changes to the Elections Act come less than 4 years after the PC government adopted a bill that set elections on the third Tuesday of July every 4 years. On another front, amendments to the House of Assembly Act would raise the pay for members of the legislature, following recommendations recently set by an independent review panel. The Cape Breton Regional Police will investigate the former CBRM mayor's use of a corporate credit card for personal expenses. Amanda McDougall rang up $17,000, which included purchases at Costco and Home Depot. Today, CBRM Council voted unanimously to call in the cops. The CBC's Kyle Moore has that story.
Cape Breton Regional Police will now investigate former Mayor Amanda McDougall's credit card expenses. For almost 3 hours, CBRM Mayor and Council met behind closed doors. Many councillors say it has left a black cloud over City Hall.
I feel, on a personal level, that I personally have lost public confidence because of the actions of one individual.
An independent investigation launched by the CBRM in December found the former mayor rang up $17,000 on a municipal credit card over 18 months. She used it to pay for things like personal travel, meals, and Uber rides. She also made several expensive Costco purchases and spent $700 at Home Depot and charged a $2,000 trip to the dentist.
There was a number of efforts advanced to the former mayor to have her simply file her monthly expense reports, and there was constant reassurances that it would be done, but unfortunately it never got done.
McDougall did pay the money back. The Provincial Department of Municipal Affairs said in an email that it was satisfied with CBRM's actions. But CBRM Council voted unanimously to have police investigate further. Mayor Cecil Clark says regional police will possibly refer the matter to the RCMP.
Chief Walsh, in receiving the report, can then determine if there's a necessity for an outside agency to be involved, and he's previously suggested that that may be the best for the process and due diligence.
Some councillors said it's unfortunate but necessary to clear the air and put to rest talk of corruption in the public.
I don't think any member of council hasn't heard from any number of viewpoints, whether it is direct communication out on the street, emails, social media. This is something, again, that deserves to have due process. And due process, unfortunately, takes patience.
We did ask today how long the investigation will take, but currently there's no timeline. Kyle Moore, CBC News, Sydney.
All right, Ryan, winter certainly has us in an icy grip.
Yeah, although the grip easing a little bit over the next couple of days, we'll be able to get a little bit of wiggle room, so to speak. Thanks so much, Amy. As we look at the temperatures on Wednesday, back at least closer to seasonal, near the freezing mark. The winds also notably weaker on Wednesday, still sustained in the 20 range, gusting 30 to 40 kilometers per hour, but not nearly as strong and relentless as they have been over the last few days. You'll note the temperatures milder here in the east, cooler in through the south and west, and that is thanks to this trough, which is swinging in Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. That'll spark some flurries, and on the other side of this trough, we've got some milder marine air that is going to be working its way into the region. Now, that said, we'll start to see some sunshine developing. Wednesday afternoon, we'll get into a little bit more in the way of sunshine, becoming a mix of sun and cloud just before the sun sets for most of us, and a quieter Thursday as well, with temperatures still riding near the freezing mark. Keeping an eye on Friday, though, with a system just offshore. We'll talk about that coming up.
Oh, we're keeping us on our toes. All right, thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
A subsea fiber cable that carries data between Cape Breton and Newfoundland was intentionally cut late last year. Bell tells CBC News it appears to be deliberate because of how cleanly the thick armored cable was severed. RCMP are currently investigating. Bell says the flow of data was not interrupted because of the network's redundancy plans. A repair was completed last week by the crew of a vessel with specialized equipment. Well, fire officials are still investigating the cause of a fire at the old Bloomfield School property in North End, Halifax over the weekend. Crews were called to the abandoned school at approximately 1:30 Sunday morning. They spent several hours trying to extinguish the large blaze. It took roughly 40 firefighters 4 hours to put the fire out. The building has sat vacant for the last decade and has been labeled a safety risk by a fire inspector. One of Halifax's largest landlords has released its 2024 year-end financial results. Killam Apartment REIT says although it's seeing less opportunity to raise rents, revenue is still increasing. Andrew Lamb has that story.
Landlord Killam Apartment REIT has reported its largest increase in revenue in the last 5 years from its Halifax apartments. The company brought in more than $67 million of operating income in 2024. That's according to Killam's new year-end report.
Halifax and Kitchener-Waterloo Cambridge remain two of Killam's strongest markets.
Killam reported an average Halifax rent of just under $1,500 at the end of 2024. That's an annual increase of more than 8%. Killam estimates its rents are, on average, 25% below the market rate in the city. It's a number that's declined sharply, meaning there's less opportunity for the company to raise rents when new tenants move in.
There's a big portion of their opportunity from a business perspective tied to how much they can raise it on turnover and how many turnovers are likely to happen.
This was a big topic of discussion on Killam's recent financial results call with analysts. A Killam executive said its success in raising rents to the market rate is one reason its opportunity to do so has decreased. The company says a slowing rental market is also part of the story.
It really seems like we're getting to a point where the market rents, the growth in market rents have hit somewhat of a ceiling.
Lovett says that's a broad pattern both in Halifax and across Canada, but we're still a long way from fixing the housing crisis.
We're still in the territory that's firmly kind of problematic relative to before the pandemic, when we were starting to really have some serious concerns about housing conditions in Atlantic Canada. We're not in safe territory yet.
According to Statistics Canada, rents in Nova Scotia increased by an average of about 5% in December compared to last year. That's down significantly from the rent inflation we were seeing 2 years ago. Andrew Lamb, CBC News, Halifax.
The estimated cost of repairs to Acadia University's pool doubled from $3 million to around $7 million after a second inspection was done. After public outcry last week about the pool closure, the university hired a company to do another inspection. The engineering firm found that the 60-year-old pool has leaks and water quality issues. There are also corroding pipes. The inspection recommended closing the facility. The university says even if they had the funds, keeping the pool open is a safety hazard. 6 Nova Scotia professors have been awarded the King Charles III Coronation Medal for their contributions to the community. Jude Gerard, a member of the Millbrook First Nation, who currently serves as the first ombudsperson for the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design, was awarded the medal for his work in making education more accessible for people from the Indigenous, Black, and LGBTQ+ communities.
We hear all the time that the education system's broke, that the healthcare system's broke, but these systems aren't broke. They're working exactly how they were designed to work, to elevate some and oppress others. So for me, the work I've been doing the last couple decades have been around breaking down those barriers so that all students can succeed to their full potential.
The medal is the first to mark a coronation and is being awarded to 30,000 individuals across the country. Well, Canada is heading to the final of the Four Nations Cup, and it came with help from Cole Harbour's hockey heroes.
There's a chance coming through again. Scores! Nathan McKinnon, the 1-2 punch. Granlund right over at center. That was Crosby. Bouncing it in, and now it's going to be done. What a play by Sidney.
Nathan McKinnon scored 5 minutes into the game to put Canada up 2-0 against Finland. And in the last minute of play, Sidney Crosby answered the call with a big hit and finished the game with an empty netter. Canada hung on to beat the Finns 5-3, and that sets the stage for a rematch between Canada and the U.S. in the title game Thursday night in Boston. There's a live look at Halifax. The sky's not too dark. Ryan's up next with his full weather forecast. Yeah, the wind over the past couple of days, pretty howling, I guess.
Yeah.
In some spots, anyway.
And really, through Monday, it just was relentless, right? I mean, it was pretty gusty on Sunday as well, but then Monday, just it really.
It's not a warm breeze either,
no,
right?
Definitely not. And it was howling indeed. Widespread wind warnings were in effect, obviously, and have a look at the winds, the peak winds across the Maritimes, and you can see the Tri-County area in particular. Yarmouth, unofficially, 139 kilometer per hour gusts there recorded at the airport. That is the strongest gust in that area, though we did see other gusts to 111 and 120 right in the Yarmouth area. 122 Briar Island. You can see Becquerel also over 100. The Valley, also a couple of spots over 100. And Grand Etang, 137. And so, yes, those very strong winds continue. We'll show you the winds in just a second. There are the temperatures, which of course are very cold. Thankfully, this is the coldest day. Over the next 7 days, these temperatures will be bumping up. Here are the current winds, and you can see sustained 20, 30, 40, 44 Yarmouth back through Westport. And as we look at the gusts, Grand Etang just at 44, but on the other side of the Highlands in through Victoria County, some gusts there in the 90 to 110 kilometer per hour range, downsloping off the Highlands over the next couple of hours. So that'll be where our strongest winds are for the next handful of hours, easing overnight. Gusting, you can see 50 to 60 kilometers per hour there, and Lunenburg gusting at 50. Wind chill values firmly into the mid-minus teens across the board. A couple of flurries continue to sail in for most, but directing your attention here to Inverness County, and that's where we're going to see another 10, 15, maybe 20 centimeters of snow through tonight and into Wednesday morning as well. Sparked in some ways thanks to this trough, which is continuing to sink in. And on the other side of this trough, this is actually milder marine air, which is going to be working its way down and helping to bump our temperatures up as it wraps around on the backside of this latest storm that we saw. Now, watching this system as well, that is going to be what we'll have to keep an eye on for Friday. Temperatures overnight really won't cool a whole lot from where we are right now. -8 to -9 is about it, and we'll see temperatures -4 to -5 through Cape Breton. Winds sustained 30 to 40, will gust 50, 60 kilometers per hour. But again, those stronger gusts in through Victoria County and Inverness County this evening. Inverness gusting to 70. And as I said, Victoria County gusting upwards of 90 to 110 for the next few hours. There again is that snow through tonight in through the Inverness area. We'll see flurries elsewhere. And overnight, after midnight, is when we'll see the best chance of a coating to as much as a couple of centimeters. And this is going to be something we'll have to keep an eye on for Wednesday morning, as so much ice around. We know that. Then you're going to add a little bit of snow on top, so you're not going to be able to see where those slippery spots are quite so easily on Wednesday. So just a heads up on that. Temperatures will warm into the afternoon as we do see those highs bumping up. We'll be near the freezing mark for most of the east, and in through the central areas we'll be just below the freezing mark in most cases. Amherst a little bit milder, right near the freezing mark, and the coolest temps here and through the south and west as that air mass not quite making its way in. Note the wind chills. Still mid-minus teens to start Wednesday and then bumping up into the afternoon, but certainly a bite to the air. Now, Thursday, the winds nearly calm, which would be great. It would be such a nice day. A mix of sun and cloud. We will cloud up a little bit into the afternoon. Temperatures right near the freezing mark. Here's the Friday system. And again, the track, there's Sable Island. So the track looking to be south of Sable, which is more cases than not when the storms track south of Sable. The impacts are not so significant here in Nova Scotia. And it does look like the most significant snow will be tracking to our south as of now. Flurries, though, brushing with on and across Nova Scotia with this for Friday. So keeping an eye on that. A quiet weekend, which will be nice as well. Amy.
Quiet is good.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Coming up, after tabling the latest budget, Finance Minister John Lohr says tax cuts will help stimulate the economy. The Houston government unveiled its fiscal blueprint Tuesday. Its latest budget follows through on promised tax cuts as well as the elimination of tolls on Halifax harbor bridges, measures that will increase the province's debt. I'm joined now by Finance Minister John Lohr at Province House. So first off, how much did the threat of U.S. tariffs impact the look of this budget?
Well, I think, Amy, in reality, it did quite a bit. I mean, this has been a wake-up call for Canada, for Nova Scotia. The threat of U.S. tariffs is very real. We know it'll have a very real impact on our budget, so it's a major concern.
Well, given the possible impact of the tariffs on the Nova Scotia economy, was there ever a thought to pausing some of the bigger ticket budget items, such as reducing the HST to 14% or, scrapping the bridge tolls?
Well, Amy, in reality, some of the things that we're doing, like our historic, capital build and the tax cuts, I mean, we were really of the belief that these things we had to do. We know that both the tax cuts and the build we're doing in healthcare and in housing and in schools and roads are things that have to be done. And they will act as an economic stimulus, so in a sense it's a good time to bring them in, knowing that the threat of tariffs could damage our economy. The fact is that the things that we are doing will strengthen our economy right now.
Do you have any idea how big a toll tariffs could take on the Nova Scotia economy?
I think there are people that are working on that, and certainly we have heard estimates, but at the moment, not knowing precisely what the tariffs are, it's impossible to say, but it is a major concern.
Now, if necessary, you've got a $200 million reserve fund. How would that be used?
Well, this is a signal to the people of Nova Scotia and to that we will do whatever we need to do. We want it to be transparent in how we put that in the budget. Our hope is that we never have to use that. Our hope is that we don't face these tariffs. But if we do, we will use it. But until we have the tariffs and until we see the impact, it's hard to say precisely how it will be used, but it's our signal that we will do whatever we need to do.
Now, the province will be foregoing $39 million in revenues from dropping the bridge tolls. Where will the money come from to keep these bridges up and running after April 1st?
So Amy, we have 4,000 plus bridges that we look after in the province, and we provision the money for all of those bridges through taxation. Having two bridges not tolled is something that we just decided was two bridges with a toll was something that wasn't acceptable anymore. So we've taken the tolls. There's no tolls on any other bridge. Why should there be tolls on this? This will be funded through our general revenue fund.
Now, your government is adding to the provincial debt, pushing it to levels not seen in 2 decades. Does that concern you?
So, Amy, we have brought in 4 budgets in a row where we projected pretty significant impacts on the provincial debt, and yet we brought in the end balanced budgets. We know that if the economy grows, we will be able to afford all these things. So part of our budget and part of what we're doing is talking about resource development, and we're doing that because we believe in the future prosperity of Nova Scotia. So we think that we will be able to, we're very confident, I should say, that we will be able to make this work.
So the province's growing debt is not a concern?
So the growth in the debt is something that is very similar to what was positioned in the past years. And we are confident that we need to do this. And not only that, we're very aware that the things that we're spending money on to growing that debt are schools, our hospitals, our roads, and all of those, and housing. All of those things we desperately need in our province, and we think we can't afford not to do it.
Now, your budget is also getting rid of parking fees at hospitals. Why did you decide that was a priority?
We know that for people facing tough economic times, we don't want them to have to think, I can't go to the hospital because I can't afford to park there. So it's a signal to Nova Scotians that we are doing our best to fix health care, even to these small details.
All right, Minister Lohr, thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Amy.
Coming up, an investigation is underway after a plane crashed, caught fire, and flipped upside down at Toronto's Pearson Airport. And top diplomats from Russia and the U.S. agreed to push forward on ending the war without Ukraine at the table. Welcome back. A quick correction to bring you now. We mentioned earlier in the show that today was the first day of the legislature. In fact, it was budget day. The first day of the legislature was last week. Well, to national news, the investigation into what caused Monday's shocking crash landing at Toronto's Pearson International Airport is in full swing. Multiple agencies are trying to figure out if winter weather was to blame or something entirely different. But the fact that everyone escaped alive from that dramatic plane accident is astounding. Nicole Williams reports.
The terrifying moment the Delta Airlines plane came crashing down.
All of a sudden, I just remember being fully sideways.
Oh, no. New cell phone video shows it coming down hard, catching fire, skidding forward, and flipping over.
I was looking down and just seeing like sparks and flames and whatever was grinding against the ground. And then, yeah, it happened pretty dang quick, and we were just upside down hanging from our seatbelts.
Plumes of smoke rising into the air before crews arrived to douse the flames.
Drop it! Come on!
All 80 people on board coming from Minneapolis alive, but 21 were injured and taken to hospital, including one child. Delta confirming all but 2 have since been released, many treated for head and back injuries and fuel exposure. Dozens of investigators now on site from the Transportation Safety Board of Canada and the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration to try and determine what went wrong.
On Thursday and Sunday, we got more than 20 inches, 50 centimeters of accumulated snow.
The airport's CEO says it was a brutal week for air travel, 2 snowstorms paralyzing hundreds of flights over the last week.
Monday was a clear day, though, and it was an operational recovery day for Toronto Pearson.
Tower, wind 270-23, gust 33, clear to line on 823, my gas light.
But this audio from air traffic control that day was warning pilots of tricky conditions on the runway.
My gas light bump in the glide path, there'll be an aircraft in front of it.
Winter airports, gusty conditions, it becomes more challenging. So make no mistake about it.
The fuselage of the plane is expected to remain on the tarmac for at least 2 days, forcing the closure of 2 of the airport's 5 runways to give investigators time to get to the bottom of the crash before it will be cleared away. More than 400 flights were canceled yesterday because of the plane crash, and that is on top of the ballooning backlog already created because of the 2 winter storms we had this past week. So airport officials are saying to expect delays in the days ahead and to check your flight status before you head to the airport. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Toronto.
Top diplomats from Russia and the U.S. met in Saudi Arabia to discuss ending the war in Ukraine. They did so, however, without Ukrainian officials at the table. As the CBC's Crystal Gamansing reports, those who were present vowed that these talks are just the beginning.
The 2 sides met for more than 4 hours, the first face-to-face meeting between Russia and the U.S. since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The previous U.S. administration led Western allies to politically and economically isolate Russia to limit its abilities to fund its war on Ukraine. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State for the U.S., said officially restarting relations quickly was one of 4 points the 2 sides agreed to.
We're going to appoint our teams respectively that have worked very quickly to reestablish the functionality of our respective missions in Washington and in Moscow. For us to be able to continue to move down this road, we need to have diplomatic facilities that are operating and functioning normally. The second point is that we're going to appoint a high-level team from our end to help negotiate and work through the end of the conflict in Ukraine in a way that's enduring and acceptable to all the parties engaged.
For there to be enduring peace in Ukraine, the U.S. delegation acknowledged the need for security guarantees. Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, said Monday it would be ready and willing to put troops on the ground in Ukraine. Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, however, said NATO or foreign troops in Ukraine would not be acceptable to Russia. The possibility of easing restrictions on the Russian economy was welcomed by Kirill Dmitriev.
This dialogue of 2, strategic powers in the world is very important, and the world is a much safer place now when this dialogue started to happen. So we'll have to see how it evolves over time, but definitely a very positive start. And by the way, Saudi played a really key role in providing good, opportunity for this dialogue.
Ukraine was not invited to these talks. Future invites have not been laid out. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky again stated his country would not accept any deal made without Ukraine being present at the negotiating table, and that to him a diplomatic solution does not mean surrendering territory. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, London.
The Vatican says latest medical tests show Pope Francis has pneumonia in both lungs, but added that he remains in good spirits. He was hospitalized on Friday after his respiratory infection worsened. The CBC's Megan Williams has the latest from Rome.
The
The latest update on Pope Francis's health came at 7:30 this evening, with the Vatican saying that the Pope's condition remains complex. It said the Pope had a chest X-ray and CAT scan revealing that he has pneumonia in both lungs. Francis was hospitalized on Friday for bronchitis and has taken a turn for the worse. The Vatican said the Pope's infection has developed against a backdrop of asthmatic bronchitis and bronchiectasis. Now, that's a chronic lung condition where airways are damaged, causing infection and a buildup of mucus. The Pope is being given corticosteroid and antibiotics, making the treatment complex. Despite having double pneumonia, the Vatican says that Pope Francis is in good spirits and that he spent the day resting, praying, and reading. Earlier in the day, the Vatican released a bulletin announcing that the Pope had accepted the resignation of Canadian Bishop Jean-Pierre Blais, who has been named in a class action lawsuit alleging sexual abuse. The Diocese of Baie-Comeau says his resignation has nothing to do with those allegations, which he denies. Franciscan priest Pierre Charlon has taken his place. Megan Williams, CBC News, Rome.
U.S. President Donald Trump's drive to slash the federal workforce is pressing ahead, led by American billionaire Elon Musk. Their latest target, the federal agency that oversees U.S. banks and insures deposits. More than 500 employees have been fired. But there's also concern over Musk's team trying to access people's personal tax records at the Internal Revenue Service. Cameron McIntosh reports.
Elon Musk continuing to move fast and break things here in Washington with another high-ranking resignation. Michelle King, acting commissioner for Social Security, left her job after resisting a request from Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, to access the IRS's highly sensitive taxpayer data system, including tax, banking, and even health information. Now, Musk is alleging rampant fraud, claiming dead people are receiving Social Security payments, but has not provided evidence. Social Security payments account for about $1.5 trillion, or 1/5 of annual federal spending in the United States. Reportedly, King has been replaced by someone who will cooperate with Musk. Meanwhile, DOGE continues to lay off thousands over several federal departments. Many people receiving form emails simply saying they're done. Elizabeth Aniskovich is a now former lawyer at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
I have no information about exactly how long my health insurance will continue. I have not received forms that are necessary to file for unemployment. And there's just a lot of questions about what we are supposed to do next to take care of ourselves.
Now, the Trump administration says it wants to cut 10% of the federal workforce. Some departments are having trouble tracking it. Take the National Nuclear Security Administration. Over the weekend, it realized it was firing some of the people that monitor the nuclear weapons stockpile. It's trying to hire many back. Musk has said mistakes will be made, but is offering little in the way of accountability. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Washington.
Opposition to the politics of Elon Musk is dividing Tesla vehicle owners. While the world's richest man cozies up to U.S. President Donald Trump, some Tesla dealerships have become targets of protests and vandalism. Sarah Levitt has that story.
I bought this before Elon went crazy.
Bob Porter loves his Tesla, but recently added a new accessory, a sticker clarifying his stance.
Emotions are running high, so of course people are looking at Tesla owners like we are all part of this club, and it's not true.
The club he's talking about is that of Elon Musk. The world's richest man owes much of his wealth to founding Tesla and SpaceX, but he's been in the news a lot lately for his prominent role in U.S. President Donald Trump's new administration, a role Musk started by making a hand gesture at Trump's inauguration, many said appeared to be a Nazi salute. Crowds of people opposed to Musk's politics protested outside Tesla dealerships across the U.S. over the weekend. There's also been vandalism, like outside this store in Vancouver, something police are investigating. Some Tesla owners, like singer Sheryl Crow, are waving goodbye to their cars entirely. There comes a time when you have to decide who you are willing to align with. So long, Tesla. not everybody agrees.
Oh, hell yeah, you get a lot of attention, that's for sure.
Caesar Cerny is a proud owner of a Cybertruck and says he knows just how polarizing the vehicle can be, and even more so now. But he didn't buy it as a political statement.
I like technology. I work in tech. I support tech, and I think this is the future. So for me, the adoption was very simple. It's just an amazing car to drive.
At the Canadian International Auto Show, Tesla's showcase attracts both the curious and the hardcore fans.
I'm a huge Elon Musk fan, a huge Tesla fan, and that's changed my opinion not even one little bit.
He's such a modern thinker and stuff. I think he's got a lot of good to bring to the world.
Whether fans or not, Tesla drivers say they feel the hostility on the road, something unlikely to change in the current political climate. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
Canada's annual inflation rate rose slightly in the month of January from 1.8 to 1.9%. That's according to new data from StatsCan. It says higher energy costs were to blame for notching up the inflation rate. They rose 5.3%, but that sizable jump was offset by the federal government's tax holiday. The GST break led to lower prices for food, alcohol, and clothing. But with that tax holiday now over, economists warn energy prices may have a larger impact on inflation in the months ahead. Cattle producers on PEI are being encouraged to beef up the industry on the island through a new provincial program. Nancy Russell reports.
PEI cattle producers are being encouraged to expand their herds through a new program called Grow the Herd. It offers incentives to producers to keep their heifers and calves or purchase new animals.
Actually, the high prices now it's more incentivizing to sell that animal, make a profit today as opposed to try to calve it out in a couple of years when maybe the prices are lower. So I think people are trying to cash in today on the high prices.
With the demand and price right now, the price is so incredibly high that, to keep those animals around to reproduce, we need to offer them some support.
The province has had a livestock strategy since 2021, and the numbers were up slightly last year, bucking the national trend for cattle, which is at the lowest level since 1987.
So anywhere's is a start. Be nice in 20 years that it's doubled what it is today, I guess. I guess would be something to aspire to.
The program also provides bonuses for cattle that meet the standards for certified island beef and sold to Atlantic Beef Products. There's also a new livestock champion who has just been hired and will focus on growing the island's cattle industry.
So we're excited to have that person come into the industry soon and to meet with farmers and talk to farmers and to see how we can grow the industry, what barriers are in place, what we need to do to remove some of those barriers.
The programs are focused on growing the number of cattle, but there is also a connection to soil health and climate change.
I mean, there's a lot of studies out that shows our organic matter in our soils is depleting, and that's probably coincides with fewer cattle than ever before.
The new programs are being launched with the threat of U.S. tariffs hanging over the industry. No one knows what impact that could have on beef prices.
It's always a concern, but we got to move on, and this is forward thinking down the road 2 or 3 years time, because obviously you can't just instantly grow your herd. You have to plan for the future, and that's what we're doing.
The department says the cost of the program will depend on the uptake, but it could be as much as $1.5 million between now and 2028, with funding support from the federal government. Nancy Russell, CBC News, Cumberland.
Many take it for granted, getting outside, hitting the trails, and connecting with nature. But for some, navigating the great outdoors can present accessibility challenges. Now, a new trail on Vancouver Island is hoping to eliminate some of those barriers for people who are visually impaired. The CBC's Claire Palmer takes us there.
This is Heather Hutchinson. Blind since birth, she's happy to be out on the trails.
Yeah, it definitely gives me a sense of independence. I feel like I could navigate out here by myself. It's very freeing.
Hutchison is able to enjoy the trail using this, a tapping rail, a low barrier on the side of the trail that she can use to help guide her cane. She says it's a game changer.
We know how important it is for people to get out in nature for mental and physical well-being. And so I'm super excited to find place created for me that I can access.
Advocates say small changes like this are crucial for independence and accessibility. The Canadian National Institute for the Blind says accessibility is sometimes only thought of when things are necessities and not always for recreational purposes.
When we need to make things accessible, there's a big focus on the word need. So, what are the essential services that people have to have? I think also we can make the argument, though, make the case that quality of life is essential.
It's more than a want, really. It's a need. We need to be out in nature. We need the same access to information and places and activities as everybody else. We need to be out with our friends, with our families. So to me, it's not even that much of a want. It is a need.
The RDN says it's just one of many projects they're working on to make their trails more accessible.
We'll have barrier-free park systems so that people can enjoy the beautiful parks that we have. Many sights to see, many features, water access, ramps to get down to the water and beach areas.
Increasing accessibility in its parks was just one priority outlined in the RDN's Parks and Trail Strategy, which was completed in 2022 after public consultation. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Qualicum.
Canada's main stock index rose today, helped by strength in the energy sector as the prices for oil and natural gas climbed, while U.S. stock markets made small gains. Here's a look at the numbers as we head to break. I don't know about you, but I wasn't too keen to be outside yesterday. But
no.
Some folks are braver.
Yeah, for sure. And it's been the last couple of days, right? That system late last week, and then, of course, the system over the weekend. And yeah, folks still venturing out, which is great. Have a look at our viewer picture of the day. This one was actually taken in the winds on Friday from Irish Vale. And have a look at this.
That just looks cold, doesn't it?
Couple of seats there still available, though.
They're empty.
Yeah. Thanks to Heather for sharing Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. And yeah, boy, that looks like a big old surf coming in and crashing on the beach there. Thanks to Heather again. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. There's the forecast for Wednesday. And again, we're going to be near the freezing mark for most of us, ranging from about +1 or 2 in through the Cape Breton area and the northeast to as chilly as -2 to -3 in through the south and west. We'll all be back closer to the freezing mark on Thursday. And note the lack of wind arrows swirling around on that map. That means the lighter winds will be in play on Thursday. So still a bit of a breeze on Wednesday. We're still going to gust 30 to 40 kilometers per hour, some gusts to 50 in the morning early on, and then those winds will back off. But Thursday, it's a light wind, which will be great. And then, yes, keeping an eye on Friday. So it's actually Thursday night to be exact. There's the snow, bottom of your screen. Creeping in, area of high pressure anchored to our north, though, looks, at least at the latest thinking, looks set to squish this system and keep it further to the south with just some flurries brushing in across Nova Scotia for Thursday night in through Friday morning, though could see more than that if that system does happen to track north. So we're keeping an eye on that. On the backside of that system, things will clear out nicely for Saturday. Just a few flurries on tap for Sunday, but a quieter weekend, which would be great.
For everyone involved.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ryan. Well, Donald Trump's tariff threat has created a renewed sense of national unity and Canadian pride, and that includes bagel shops. This is the Canadian Bagel, a limited edition run of a classic Montreal delicacy from Fairmont Bagel. The co-owner of the shop says the red and white crusty creation is an affirmation of Canadian pride and values in the face of an uncertain tariff war with the United States.
Fairmont Bagel has strong Canadian roots. It became the first bagel factory in the country when it was founded in 1919 by Rhonda Schlafsman's grandfather.
Bet they taste good too.
Yeah, delicious.
That's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Good night.